Hello, it's Bailey and welcome back to my channel. It is time for a new round of jokes, so we're heading into episode 1 here. There is a playlist linked down below if you're unfamiliar with this TBR game, but it's pretty self-explanatory if you just want to stick around and see how it's played. I did do my card flips, so let's go ahead and watch that. I literally turned my heat off so there was like no background noise, and now I can hear that the mini fridge up here just turned on, so there may be a slight humming, but I know that many of you have not seen what happens as I switch between rounds within a season. So essentially at the end of the last round I ended down here on short book, so I just start from there. I do shuffle between rounds. I don't shuffle between episodes, but I do between rounds, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that quick. I'm gonna give it a good shuffle, like shuffle it 3 or 4 times here. And off we go. I will flip 3 cards. An 8, so I do the opposite of the prompt. This is not quite in frame. I'm just gonna scoot everything over. Okay, so I do the opposite of the prompt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Start a series. So I will probably actually be finishing a series. A 6, I split 3 and 3. So I go 1, 2, 3. Book of the month. So I do that one. And then I go 1, 2, 3. Lowest rated. And I also do that one. And then a 2, I move 2 spaces. 1, 2. Reread random number. And I do that twice for a 2. A bit of a hefty episode here, so let's get into what I have chose, or what was chosen for me to read. Firstly, I landed on start a series, but I had to do the opposite of a prompt. I said I was going to finish a series, but this book is like a weird situation. So I'm choosing to read Solitaire by Alice Oseman, and this is the last Oseman that I have to read. All of her books are kind of connected, so it is kind of finishing a series. It's not really a series, it's also kind of a first book in a series, but I've read the other ones, so this is my last thing there, so I'm going to read this. Also, this copy was sent to me from Martine, from Just Martine, and she annotated this, so this is going to be a good fun experience. There's underlines, there's comments, there's doodles, so I'm very excited to finally read this and get to see what they supplied in here for me. Then I landed on book of the month, and I'm choosing to read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is old. The stamp on it says July of 2022. So it's time for me to get to this. On the TBR it goes. Then I got lowest rated, and at a 3.45, I am choosing to read Anna Maria and the Fox by Liana de la Rosa. This is a book of the month that I probably shouldn't have grabbed, but I love historical romance, so I keep not getting rid of it. It's not very long. I may try to do this one on audiobook, but not highly rated. I've sat on it for kind of a long time, so we'll go ahead and see how this one goes. Then I am randomly rereading 2 more books. I've already had to do this once this year, so here is the footage of me randomizing those. We are apparently living in the year of the random reread, because I've already had to do this once this year, and now I have to do it twice again, and it is a scary undertaking, but we're gonna do it. I just counted, there are 278 books on the red shelf. I feel like I also just told you my parameters. I reread if it's been more than 2 years since I read it. If I've already reread it before, it is more than 5 years since I read it last. And if it's a series, it's also more than 5 years since I read it last. If I land on something like that and I want to reread it, I'm welcome to, but I don't have to. So let's just get the first number. There's an ad on my generating app. It is 26, so let me check that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. It definitely has not been 2 years since I read this. I'll double check. This is, to be honest, something I should probably unhaul. Ooh, it's actually closer than I thought. I read this in August of 2022, so it's not August yet, so I don't have to reread this, so it's gonna go back. Like I said, I'll probably get rid of this. sometime. Now we must get another number. I have to remember to screen record every time I do this. Okay, try again. 74. Let's see when I read this. Interesting. I read this over. This is saying I reread this a year ago. Did I reread this? There's no way. Let me look at my spreadsheets. Am I forgetting that I reread this? I think that's a lie. I don't think I did. I think I have to reread Paper Towns by John Green. I do think that this is potentially something that won't hold up for me, but willing to give it a try. It's sitting here for a reason, so here's reread number 1. Let's just set this right here for now. Okay, next number. 276. How many did I say there was total? 278? Is that true? Yeah, okay. So I can just count back 2. Oh, it has not been. It's 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, which I just read last year. Very good book, but I'm not going to be rereading this one. Okay, again, 111. Off I go. Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. I do think it's been over 2 years since I read this, and I'm actually a little intrigued to reread this. I did give this book 5 stars. I read it in June of 2019. It is a mystery revolving around like treatment of kids for autism, I think. And it's a pretty like controversial treatment. But I think that that's the point of the book, is to say that like this is not ethical. But like as a parent, what would you do to like help your child, I guess, or like they think they're helping their children. So I'm curious what I'll think of this now. I think it was like in an era where I hadn't read many mysteries, or I also wasn't probably looking out for like problematic stuff as much as I would be now. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, now my eyes are just watering. But yes, this is my other reread. These are weird. These are weird rereads. This is what I'm doing. Am I getting through my physical TBR this way at all? No. And so we have Paper Towns and Miracle Creek. This one I will probably try to do on audiobook. This one I think would be good to do with my eyes. I don't do well with like mysteries on audiobook, so I probably will read this one with my eyes. This is just like a nostalgic thing. I'm not sure if I gave this 5 stars, 4 stars, somewhere up there since it's still sitting on my shelf, but I'm pretty sure that I gave this one 5 stars. So we'll see if they still hold up. And then for my choice for this episode, I am choosing the Shelf This book club book for the month of April, and that is The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. This is a YA LGBTQ horror situation. I think it's at a boarding school. So that's my choice for this episode. Again, there's a lot of books here, and I'm hoping to get through this episode still like fairly fast. So I better get started. I have started and finished a whole book. I did read the entirety of The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. Somehow I read this whole book in 3 hours and 22 minutes. So clearly not a very long thing. I'm giving this 3.5 stars. I think this is a perfect example of something that is fun to read while you're there. And of course I like finishing a book that fast, but it's not something that I think is going to stick with me for a long time, nor do I think I'll keep it because I don't find it necessary to like reread. I would rather, if all of Catherine Center's things are this way, I would rather just keep reading her new stuff than like continue to reread the same thing. But I am like I would read more of her stuff. I'm not sure I gave the premise of this, but essentially our main female character is a bodyguard. Like she works for a protection agency type thing, and they get an assignment that is this famous guy, and she gets assigned to him. There's other things going on, like she was dating somebody else at the firm, and then that guy's like sleeping with somebody else, which was like a fun side character plot line. But she quickly finds out for this job for protecting this famous guy that she's gonna have to fake date him. So this is a fake dating romance. Like I said, it was a really fun time. But on to the next thing. I think today is a Monday, so I'm headed to work. I think I'm gonna try to listen to hopefully the entirety of Paper Towns. And while I'm doing the rereads, I'm also going to start my reread of Miracle Creek. So those are my goals for the next couple days here. We are moving ahead. I tried listening to Paper Towns by John Green today as, you know, my reread, and I really just wasn't feeling it. So I am deciding to DNF this, which also means I will be unhauling it from my shelf. So it feels bad to DNF, but also that like served the purpose of me rereading. And the reason I keep books and only keep like my 4- and 5-star books is because I do like to reread. And so if this isn't something I'm going to circle back to, it's serving the purpose. It no longer needs to stay on my shelf, so I will unhaul this and it's off my list. I did lower my rating on Goodreads from a 5-star to a 4-star, but other than that, I won't do anything with it. Otherwise, I have hardly made progress in Miracle Creek so far, so I don't have any other thoughts yet. Hello, friends. I am now about halfway through Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This is my reread, and I will just say I'm finding it very interesting because I know like the mystery behind the story, so I like know who did the thing and also like who knew that they did the thing or not, and so I do feel like I'm understanding a lot more, like a lot more of people's reactions when like certain information comes out and stuff. So it is a fun reread. But I've fallen way behind and I had to pause that to start The Spirit Bares Its Teeth, which does have this like fun eye stamp in it. But the book club discussion of this is tomorrow. Mabel is touching everything. But I'm about a third of the way into this at this point, and at this point I'm really enjoying the writing style. The horror aspect is like a pretty gruesome like body horror, but like surgically. I feel like there's a lot of talking about like cutting into your body is like the kind of horror that I'm getting so far. I think a lot of my opinion about this will hinge on like what the plot ends up doing, because I can see the plot like really flopping, but also like of course it could stick the landing. So that's where I'm at right now, partway through 2 books. No real good thoughts. A toddler running amok, making noise, coloring on things she shouldn't be. Thanks for, you know, hanging out with me in my chaotic life. But I need to get to a lot of this tonight. I don't think that I came back and told you what I ended up rating The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White, but I did end up giving this 4.5 stars. I really ended up liking it. I really like the writing style, which is not something I say very often. And then I also did just like where the plot went. I will say I question this being YA just a little bit. The characters are definitely like older YA, and then just like some of the subject matter was a little bit harsh, I think, for YA, but it is a horror. So I think going into something like that, you know, even the younger audiences hopefully know what they're getting themselves into to some extent with this being labeled as horror. I did go ahead and request on NetGalley Andrew Joseph White's next book, and I already got approved, so I'm happy to find a new author that I like want to continue to read. Like I said, this writing really worked for me, so I'm excited to try another book by him, and I always love finding a diverse author to read from and recommend. So if you haven't read this one yet, I definitely would recommend it. This was the Shelf This Book Club book, so we did have a whole discussion. I will link that down below. I am still trucking through Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. I think I have like just over 100 pages left now. Yeah, like literally just over 100 pages left. I will say that this is getting more into some things that I do think are problematic around the discussion of treating autism and like how people on the spectrum are better or worse or more valuable versus less valuable based on, you know, how severe this disability is. And there is just some like icky talk around it that I think I didn't think too hard about the first time that I read this, that is just really glaring me in the face this time. So I'll have to form an opinion about that as a whole when I get to the end of this book, but overall still enjoying the reread. And then my super special book I did start. I started Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I'm trying to read like a chapter of this a day. I've read 2 chapters. So today I'm hoping to read chapter 3. And I just want to express how much I love Martine for doing this for me. This is already been like such a special experience, and they literally put something on every single page. Like I have sticky notes, I have drawings, I have like little anecdotes of things that they liked and things they know about me that relate to this book, and it's just so special. But I also recognize that this is going to take me like probably an absurd amount of time to actually read because it has all my extras. So that's kind of currently where I'm sitting with these two. I do still have Anna Maria and the Fox, and I have a little bit of a wait time on my library hold for the audiobook, but I'm hoping it comes in by the end of this. If I finish both of those and my audiobook hasn't come in, I will obviously just read it with my eyes. But that's kind of where I'm sitting right now, and I'll check in with you again probably once I finish Miracle Creek. Okay, let's talk about books. That's what we do here. I did finish Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, my reread, and upon reread, I'm giving it 4 stars this time. I'm just really conflicted about my feelings about this because I did recognize the problematic content so much more this time around, which is a good thing to have my eyes open. But I do think that this stands as a really good example of like my introduction to courtroom thrillers and realizing, or courtroom mysteries, and realizing that I really like that structure of a book, and I really do enjoy the mystery that's laid out here. I also think the conversations around treatments and autism treatments and how much or what is effective, I'm just not educated on, and I don't necessarily feel like this book takes like a huge stance. While the crime scene is at a site where treatments are happening, there's also discussion around like whether that's ethical or not. So I feel like our characters are involved in it, and then there's also a lot of discussion pushing back. So I do feel like it talks about both sides. I actually, surprisingly, what like rubbed me the wrong way almost, or like what really had me thinking, and I mentioned in my written review on Goodreads, which is up long before this video, that there is some discussion around children with disabilities from their parents. Content warning and mild spoilers, just around whether, like at what point of being needed to be cared for do you start to question whether it would be better if someone is alive or dead. And so that was just a really hard concept for me as a mom, because this discussion is had around parents with children with disabilities. And so again, like I just don't even know how to wrap my head around that concept. It wasn't something I wanted to really think too hard through in this moment, but it is a big question set forth in this book. So there's that. I did lower my rating to 4 stars. Again, I do think it is like a monumental book in my journey in learning what I've liked over the last few years. So it was a good experience as a reread. And so now I am mostly focusing on Solitaire. And I'm a good like 100 pages into this one now. And the experience is just amazing because of what Martine did for me here. I do think that if I was just reading this like bare bones book, this would probably be my least favorite one of Alice Oseman's books. This was their first book that they wrote, question mark, for sure, that they published, and they wrote this very young and published it very young. But I think having the scope of the rest of all of their books, because everything's set in the same world, like I'm enjoying the cameos of other characters, and I'm just so familiar with their writing style at this point. The couple things I'm struggling with are Alice loves to drop like modern references, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I do not know a lot of things. So they're referencing like a lot of TV shows, a lot of books that I'm just like not familiar with. So the like name dropping of that I struggle with. They do that in their other books too, but I think I'm just really noticing it for some reason in this one. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. And then I did start the audiobook of Anna Maria and the Fox. I'm not very far at all, like maybe 1 chapter in. I don't know what to think about this one. This is kind of a book that's just been lingering. It's probably one I never should have picked up from Book of the Month, but I'm gonna give this a fair try. I don't want to DNF 2 books in the same video, so I'm gonna give this a good, honest try with the audiobook the next couple days, see how that goes as I finish this one, and I'll update you when I make progress, as we always do here. I did manage to finish Solitaire last night, pretty late, 10 o'clock. That's late for me, but I'm coming in this morning to let you know my final thoughts here. I did end up giving this 3.5 stars, but I definitely think that this is Alice Oseman's weakest book. This was their debut novel, but you can really tell like how much the world expanded from here, and so I just don't recommend starting here. I think that this is a very good like addition to the world, and if you're already invested in these characters and things that are going on, I think that this is still worth reading. I just think the plot line of, so there's basically this blog that keeps posting like pranks for the school to do, and I just thought the plot line of that was kind of weak. I also really continued to struggle with all of the reference dropping, and once I saw it I couldn't like unsee it. Every time a show, movie, book was mentioned, I was just like cringing at that point because it was so much, and again, that's one of those things, once you notice it you can't help but notice it. And now I'm completely caught up on everything that Alice Oseman has out. I just have this huge sense of like, what are we gonna get next? I know that the next Heartstopper volume should be next, and I'm pretty sure that's the final Heartstopper, so that I'm like, then what? What are we waiting for here? Because I do want to continue with these characters, but I'd also love to see them, you know, expand into something else. So very curious what's up Alice Oseman's sleeve next. And also with this copy being my annotated copy by Martine, this is now like one of my most prized possessions. So happy to have this. This was an experience as a whole. But now all I have left is Anna Maria and the Fox. I am working through the audiobook of this. Today is Sunday. I don't really plan on like listening to this all day. I actually think I'm about to film the intro for the next Jokes episode and get a start on the next physical book that I'm going to read. So I will probably like hop around in this a little bit today and then really finish it tomorrow at work. I mean, I'm a good chunk of the way, and I'm not sure what page I'm on, but I'm like probably almost 2 hours into the audiobook. So far, not much to say. Okay, it is the next night, and I did manage to today finish Anna Maria and the Fox by Liana de la Rosa, and unfortunately I'm giving this 2 stars. I feel like I have a really poor review here because really I just lost so much interest that I couldn't even like bring myself to care, which there is probably an element of that being the book, you know. I had lost interest and then nothing grabbed me enough to like bring it back. I also just want to say that in my mind, historical romance should be like fun, and this was honestly kind of like a heavy book. So that might be my fault and not the book. This just wasn't what I wanted. So I'm giving it a 2 star. I really did not have a good time, but I don't think it's like inherently bad. But lowest rated, yeah. So let's recap this episode because I've done a lot here. Firstly, I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I gave this 3.5 stars. I DNF'd Paper Towns by John Green. My highest rated book of this episode was The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. I was very pleasantly surprised to enjoy this one so much. Then I had my reread of Miracle Creek landing at a 4 star. My very special book of Solitaire getting 3 stars. And Anna Maria and the Fox getting 2 stars. But just to prove a point here that Jokes on Me is working, the fact that I own every single one of these books means that I am picking from the books that I need to be. The rereads are getting a little ridiculous, but this whole episode was books that I physically own. So I'm gonna give myself something for that. You know, a little credit where credit is due. But with that, this episode is coming to a close. So thank you so much for spending some time with me lately. This was a big chunky episode, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.